It didn't break in one explosive moment. It broke across a timeline. Decision after decision, staff reshuffles, charity splits, security fights, and public narratives that slowly turned trust into caution and closeness into distance. By the end, it wasn't just a strained relationship. It was two separate systems. This is 20 decisions that quietly sealed William and Harry's rift. 1. The joint court quietly ends. The first real crack between the brothers was administrative, not emotional. On March 14, 2019, the palace confirmed. The Sussexes would have a separate household office based at Buckingham Palace. Instead of sharing the same Kensington Palace court structure with Prince William and Princess Catherine, once you stop sharing the same staff machine, you stop sharing the same incentives. Every message becomes our side versus their side, and small disagreements lose the private shortcuts that keep siblings close. 2. Aides stop sharing one playbook. It sounds boring until you realize it's how trust gets rebuilt day to day. After the household split was set, reporting described the Sussex communications team moving out of Kensington Palace and into new Buckingham Palace offices later that spring. That shift matters because it reduces the casual corrective moments, the quick clarifications, the quiet course corrections, that's not what we meant before it becomes a story. From 2019 onward, distance wasn't personal, it was operational. 3. Windsor becomes home, not Kensington. Then came the physical separation. In early April 2019, Harry and Meghan moved from their Kensington Palace home to Frogmore Cottage in Windsor. That move was practical on paper, but it also changed the rhythm of contact. You don't bump into each other. You don't share the same daily environment. You schedule. You route things through assistants. Over time, that turns family into logistics, especially when tensions already exist. It's harder to repair a relationship you rarely inhabit. 4. One charity machine splits in two. By June 20, 2019, the separation wasn't just where they lived or who answered emails. It was their public mission. The Sussexes announced plans to step away from the Royal Foundation setup and build a separate charitable vehicle. In royal life, charity isn't only goodwill. It's identity, access, and long-term positioning. Once that engine split, we build together became we compete for meaning. And when purpose diverges, every future disagreement starts feeling like a verdict on values. 5. Separate branding makes separate realities. With the split of their offices, the same separation quietly spread to branding and communications, too. Different teams, different channels, different voices. After the 2019 household change, they would no longer operate under one shared public front, but as two distinct operations with their own messaging strategies. That matters because the moment you stop sharing the megaphone, you stop sharing the frame. Each side begins speaking to a different audience guided by different advisors and priorities. And the gap stops being personal. It becomes structural. A systems issue that a single conversation can't easily fix. 6. The exit goes public first. Prince Harry and Meghan chose to step back as senior working royals and pursue a more independent life. But the bigger shock was the rollout. On January 8, 2020, they announced it publicly on social media first, instantly triggering crisis mode across staff, press, family, and government. From that point, Prince William's side wasn't handling a private rift. It was protecting the institution in real time. Trust doesn't react well to public surprise. 7. Sandringham turns family into policy. Within days, the dispute stops being sibling tension and becomes a constitutional-style negotiation. On January 13, 2020, the Queen issued a statement after the Sandringham meeting agreeing to a period of transition with time in Canada and the UK while final decisions were reached. That language matters. It's no longer work it out as a family. It's define a model. And once the conflict is framed as a model, compromise looks like precedent risk, especially to the future King's camp. 8. The deal draws hard lines. A few days later, the relationship gets converted into terms and conditions. On January 18, 2020, Buckingham Palace set out the new arrangement. The Sussexes would step back from royal duties, stop receiving public funds for duties, and accept limits around official roles. This is the moment the rift becomes structural. Written rules replace informal flexibility. And when siblings move from talk it out to live under an agreement, every future argument is about enforcement, not understanding. 9. Security becomes a legal battlefield. Then the most emotional issue gets routed through bureaucracy. A decision letter dated February 28, 2020 explained that protective security would be withdrawn for March 31, 2020 with future arrangements handled differently. Whatever your view of the merits, the effect is predictable. Safety becomes a policy dispute and then a legal dispute. Family members stop being problem solvers and start being stakeholders. That's a brutal environment for reconciliation because backing down feels like conceding risk. 10. Going Hollywood locks the narrative. By late 2020, the separation isn't just geographic, it's economic. On September 2, 2020, Harry and Meghan signed a multi-year production deal with Netflix. In December 2020, they announced a Spotify podcast partnership. These deals don't automatically cause a rift, but they do change incentives. Long-form content rewards storytelling, clarity, and a version of events. And once a version becomes a product, private repair becomes harder because softening the conflict can look like undermining the brand. And once their new platform was locked in, the palace responded with a permanent boundary that ended any easy path back. 11. The no-return line is drawn. By February 19, 2021, the trial period was over. Buckingham Palace confirmed Harry and Meghan would not return as working royals and that their honorary military roles and royal patronages would be returned and redistributed. That single decision turns a messy separation into a settled reality. No shared duties, no shared institutional lane, no gradual ease back in. It also removes common ground, shared service where the brothers once naturally overlapped. Grievance becomes the forum. Then comes the Oprah special. In early March 2021, Harry and Meghan chose a global primetime sit-down with Oprah filmed in California. Meghan described feeling isolated and unsupported, including suicidal thoughts, while Harry framed palace life as confining and said he felt trapped. They also raised the Archie skin tone conversation. Concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born. Once those claims were aired in a primetime Oprah special, the conflict stopped being private family repair and became global judgment, making any quiet compromise far more costly for both sides. 13. Recollections may vary Harden's lines. 2 days later, the palace answered with a sentence that landed like a door clicking shut. On March 9, 2021, Buckingham Palace said the issues raised were concerning, but recollections may vary. Institutionally, it's a classic containment move. Acknowledge, don't litigate. Relationally, it's gasoline. One side hears, we won't validate your version. The other hears, we won't debate this publicly. That gap becomes permanent because neither position can soften without losing face. 14. Funeral protocol replaces brotherhood. By April 17, 2021, even grief had choreography. Prince Philip's funeral brought William and Harry into the same physical space, but with highly managed arrangements designed to avoid media drama. That's the decision. The relationship now has to be stage managed. When two brothers can't simply walk together without it becoming a headline, it signals that trust isn't just low, it's operationally fragile. 15. Diana's day kept deliberately small. Then came the moment that should have been pure unity. On July 1, 2021, Diana's 60th birthday, William and Harry unveiled her statue at Kensington Palace. The event was intentionally modest, and the optics were careful. That restraint says everything. Even the one legacy they share most deeply required controlled conditions. When your mother's memorial needs a risk-managed reunion, the separation has become the norm, not the exception. 16. Netflix turns Rift into a series. December 2022 turned the rupture into a bingeable narrative. Netflix's Harry and Meghan didn't just recap headlines. It walked viewers through their courtship, the pressures of royal life, media hostility, and their case for why the exit was necessary. One moment that landed especially badly in the UK was Meghan's reenactment of her first curtsy. As though I was like, which many viewers read as mocking royal protocol. Once the rift is packaged as a polished narrative product, reconciliation stops being a private repair job. 17. Spare Prince. The grievances forever. Then the story moved from screen to shelf. Spare was published globally on January 10, 2023. The memoir doesn't just talk, it archives. It gives names, scenes, and a permanent record that millions can quote back at your family. 4. William side. Responding risks escalating the fight. Staying silent risks letting the book become the default truth. Have you had a chance to read your brother's book at all? Have you had a chance to read your brother's book at all? You Roy. Either option pushes both camps into defensive posture, and defensive families don't rebuild trust easily. And the moment Spare went public, the conflict didn't just get louder, it got personal. 18. The fight becomes brother versus brother. And then the rift stops being us versus the palace and becomes me versus my brother. In extracts ahead of the memoir, Harry described a 2019 confrontation and alleged William physically attacked him. That lands differently because it isn't about faceless systems. It's about one brother's character in public on record. Institutional disputes can be negotiated. Public sibling accusations invite the world to pick sides, turn every reunion into a headline test, and make any path back feel like someone has to accept humiliation. 19. Frogmore closes the UK door. By March 1, 2023, the Sussexes confirmed they'd been asked to leave Frogmore Cottage. On paper, it's just property. Emotionally, it reads like the last spare key getting taken back. Frogmore was reportedly given by the late Queen as a wedding gift. Their one uncomplicated UK landing pad. Now, once that base is gone, every return to the UK becomes a negotiated special case. And when nothing is routine anymore, the quiet moments where a relationship can mend almost disappear. 20. Security lawsuits keep the wound open. But if one choice keeps the rift from ever going quiet, it's security turning into a court fight instead of a family solution. In May 2025, the Court of Appeal rejected Harry's challenge over UK police protection, leaving the bespoke arrangement in place. Litigation locks everyone into positions because backing down looks like surrender. It creates permanent headlines and formal judgments, and it reopens the conflict on a schedule, filings, hearings, rulings. When a relationship runs on a legal calendar, it never gets the quiet stretch that healing needs. If this breakdown helped you see how the rift became structural, hit like so more people find it and drop a comment with the one decision you think did the most damage. Thanks for watching and click the next video on your screen to keep going.